If there weren't already shockwaves being sent through LIV Golf from Commissioner Greg Norman's recent comments, surely the resignation of Chief Operating Officer Atul Khosla will significantly impact LIV Golf in the short term. The announcement of Khosla's departure comes as Greg Norman doubles down on his thumping statements toward the PGA Tour and several of its superstars. And while LIV Golf was barely recovering from Khosla's resignation, the organization also lost another top executive, making him the second one to leave in as many months. It's evident LIV Golf is going through a crisis that they definitely don't want the world to know about. So what exactly is going on the other side? And who's the second top executive to dump LIV Golf? Stick around till the end, there's a lot to unravel. The shocking part of Khosla's departure relates to the fact that he was believed to have a major influence within the Upstart series in terms of potentially bringing in future sponsors, broadcasting partners, and additional resources to support the league. Now, LIV Golf will be faced with the challenge of replacing one of its top executives and leaders. The resigned chief operating officer had experience with other major sporting franchises, such as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from the NFL, where he served as the chief of corporate development and remained with the Buccaneers franchise until he left and eventually joined LIV Golf. Greg Norman had always praised Atul for his contributions to LIV Golf, but his recent comments have been targeted at the PGA Tour and several of its superstars, including Rory McIlroy and Tiger Woods. There are rumors that an internal breakdown in relations between Khosla and Norman could have led to this resignation. Others are of the opinion that Khosla sees the writing on the wall along with the financial challenges that the Saudi-backed tour will experience throughout 2023. If Atul jumped ship from LIV Golf before things got even worse, Greg would have difficulty finding someone with better experience and qualifications for the chief operating officer position. Atul's exit just within a year after LIV announced his appointment as its COO comes as the Upstart Tour struggles to gain sustained traction and, according to reports by the New York Times, confidential records suggest that the tour is nowhere close to reaching the benchmarks that would deem it successful. The shockwaves that stem from Atul's departure should not be understated. LIV's former COO is a major loss to the organization, and anyone who disagrees is simply not accepting the reality that comes with his experience. LIV Golf is currently bedeviled with enough challenges. As it stands, there are virtually no corporate sponsors willing to sign on with the Rebel League, and a broadcasting deal seems unlikely at best. Greg Norman now has to focus on a significant resignation that could impact LIV Golf negatively until a qualified replacement is found. Norman's reaction to Khosla's resignation gave some credence to the speculations that Atul might have left the rival league due to an internal breakdown in relations between himself and the Shark, as the former Aussie pro golfer didn't have a lot of positive things to say about him. His comments were generic, and the 67-year-old expressed virtually no emotion, positively or negatively, toward Khosla when announcing that he would not be returning for LIV Golf's second season in 2023. Atul Khosla decided to move on at the conclusion of LIV's successful inaugural season. "We respect him and his personal decision," said Norman in a statement to the New York Times. Norman did sound unconcerned, but the fact is, losing a leader such as Khosla is not an outcome that will be beneficial to the Upstart series if they're to stand the test of time and truly become a major alternative to the PGA Tour. The PGA Tour has the best players in the world competing on the tour in 2023, while LIV Golf has a small field of just 48 players across just over a dozen events. LIV Golf craves a juicy television broadcasting deal in 2023, but only the PGA Tour has those connections and partnerships at this time. Even with Atul's departure, LIV Golf has scored some small victories. The most recent victory is that more than a dozen of its players will be featured in a major championship in the Masters tournament in 2023. Other wins may be more difficult for LIV Golf to achieve. The chief operating officer position will likely remain vacant for a little while, at least until someone with similar qualifications can be found to fill the position. LIV Golf needs someone of equal or greater experience to Atul Khosla, but that seems unlikely, especially as more people are finding it tough to accept a job with LIV Golf due to the large number of controversies that have taken place in the public eye. You see, the fact is, as legal and financial troubles build up, the true impacts and longer-term effects of Atul's resignation may not set in for a while, but it may create more problems for LIV Golf. The Breakaway Series will be entering an expanded season this year with 14 events planned throughout the calendar year. LIV Golf Tour is expected to start in February of 2023 and run throughout the summertime. The field size is expected to remain at 48 entries, including several recent defections from the PGA Tour. While Atul may no longer be around to help guide the tour forward, many wonder if his eventual replacement will be able to find new ways to bring in corporate sponsors and television partners and do most of the stuff he's been doing to promote the league. Even though LIV Golf has faced the negative news of its former COO's recent departure and resignation, the holiday season has brought some LIV Golf top players an unexpected reward. The Masters tournament just announced that some players would be allowed to compete in 2023. More than a dozen golfers that compete on the rival tour are still eligible to enter the Masters tournament in 2023. Still, there were several questions in recent weeks as to whether or not they would actually be allowed to compete. Now, those questions have been answered with the recent announcement, but the timing could not be worse. Greg Norman and his organization have been trying to use the positive news coming from the Augusta National Golf Club to cover up the disappointing news that recently came from Chief Operating Officer Khosla's resignation. Norman seems to have his focus on other things, at least from the public's perspective. He's constantly been running his mouth about some mysterious conversation with PGA superstar Justin Thomas. LIV Golf's chief executive seems to think that his discussion with Justin Thomas will eventually result in him ditching the PGA Tour. Still, he fails to realize that it's not always business as usual with every player. Considering Thomas's close relationship with Tiger Woods, who has been a harsh critic of Greg Norman and LIV Golf, he may not have a change of mind. Norman has been living in an alternate reality as he continues to make public statements that don't seem to line up with the reality that we live in. Now, despite his public claims, there are no signs of Thomas or Rory defecting from the PGA Tour at any point in the future. However, Norman has maintained that despite his belief, the door remains open for Thomas, McIlroy, and Spieth to join. Without a steady hand of guidance from the former chief operating officer, some executives from within LIV Golf believe that any sort of stability that may have been available with the leadership core of LIV Golf is unfortunately no longer existent after Atul tendered his resignation. However, if someone can bring some form of financial support to the series, it will continue to operate while taking in massive losses. Many industry experts believe that there is simply no way to support such a league for long periods without even attempting to balance the budget in the long run. Perhaps the most exciting topic of discussion is whether Norman will manage to keep his job for much longer. Every resignation puts more pressure on himself and all the other leaders stationed within LIV Golf. Speculation has been building about Norman, particularly whether he'll be forced out of his position as a commissioner of LIV Golf. However, Atul Khosla isn't the first major LIV executive to resign abruptly. What's more concerning to Greg Norman and his connections is that there are rumors that a larger wave of resignations may be lurking, and whoever ignited that flame wasn't wrong, as Matt Goodman, who was the director of franchises since May, is no longer with the Saudi-backed series. Matt was leading strategy and operations for the tour's 12 teams, including developing league and team policies, branding and innovation, and revenue. Before joining the Rebel Golf League, Matt Goodman worked for New York City Football Club as a commercial officer and chief operating officer. Goodman also spent time with the NBA, Cleveland Browns, and Madison Square Garden. Greg Norman faces stressful challenges ahead as he weighs his options, trying to find the best pathway forward for his golf league, himself, and all of the players that now represent it. On the other hand, Khosla finds himself free from the controversies while likely managing to avoid a lot of the negative press that the Saudi-sponsored series may be exposed to in the coming months from their ongoing public conflicts and legal battles with the PGA Tour. However, only time will tell whether Khosla and Goodman are the only top executives to take a walk from LIV Golf, or whether a long string of resignations will hit the league's top executives. But what are your thoughts on LIV's internal crisis? Is Greg Norman the next in line to step aside? We'll catch you in the next one.